the guy is not willing to give you 5 minutes, then that's not your customer. What are the 2 or 3 things have you done right through the journey to build confidence? Do not spend too much time trying to principally change someone. So when I thought about the word negotiation, Mandwali, adjustment, compromise, we have different ways of expressing. It's such a huge topic. And I'm like, so where do I start negotiation? I was negotiating with myself. Like, where do I start negotiating with you? Should we speak about your interview negotiation when you're at the interview panel, sitting in front of an interview panel, and there are people who are saying, what is your last round compensation? And you're like, I want this. They say no. Is that the negotiation that where you struggle? Do you struggle with customers who are perpetually want a discount, who always, you are going to press on value and they're going to press on the price? Or is there any other negotiation that you are struggling with? So what is that negotiation? And so therefore, this is just, if you look at a pie chart of negotiations, this is but just the small sliver of pie where I'm going to talk about the basic tenets of negotiation. If you like zoom out, and no pun intended there, if you like zoom out and say, what is the simplified understanding of negotiation? Is there a way, technique that I can try to explore? And what could be the subtext while I try some of these things? So that's the broad framework. So it's the art of hearing the unspoken. I've been a people manager since 2003, 2004, and I've probably done about more than say 2,000-3,000 interviews. What happens is, students and candidates and everybody come very prepared. Nowadays, even the customers come very prepared, and they know what to say, that they're articulating exactly the words that ought to be said. But over time, you figure out what is unsaid. So when the customer is saying something, what is the unsaid? If you can pick up on the unspoken, unsaid bit of it, and I'll show you how typically we try, chances are you will be able to negotiate a little better. Chances, that's all I'm saying. Missing out the unspoken, like they say, what dogs are not barking. If you miss out the subtext of the conversation, you will land up in a situation where you say, oh, I didn't know this objection. I was taken by surprise. You could have told this to me earlier. You didn't. But the customer has been dropping these micro moments during the course. It's not the final stage of negotiation, but en route to negotiation, dropping those micro moments. But you miss those micro moments. So we'll try and see how you can touch upon those micro moments. So it is the art of hearing the unspoken and the science of maximizing those micro moments. If they can explode in your head, like, oh, I got you. For example, the guy says, your product is very good, but we are just fine. The unspoken text there is, oh, I'm looking for something much more than what you said. And so how do you pick that up? If the name of your movie is negotiation, what genre will it be? Will it be a tragedy? Will it be a thriller, comedy, documentary? As you can see, right, that very difficult to have a unified definition of negotiation. Very difficult. For some, it is comedy. For some, it's a crime drama. For some, it's thriller. And that is exactly how it happens. So the first takeaway is, please never, ever get into a negotiation with a predetermined mindset. This is the syllabus. This is how it will happen. No, never, illa, yet. It doesn't happen like that. So never go with this pre-fixed mindset that today I will have to do this. One of the key ingredients to ensure that you're not entering with a predetermined mindset is to be flexible. Charles Darwin said it's the survival of the fittest. In the year 2023, that definition has been updated a little bit. And that definition is survival of the most adaptable. You should be able to adapt. Your cognitive ability should be high, where you can be in a given situation. Of course, there's a planning, there's a prep, there is a framework. But if you are suddenly deviated, then you have to have that gravitas, that calmness, that thought clarity to shift quickly and do that. So when you enter into a negotiation, do not think that it will go per plan always. Endeavor is always like that, but be prepared internally for curveballs, for objections, for, oh, you didn't say this to me. And I'll tell you how to tackle not being surprised, right? First up, look at these questions on your right. Preset or reset notions before you enter the theater. Like before you go watch a movie, you have seen the teaser, you have seen the trailer, you have already formed an opinion. How many times have you entered the theater and figured out, that's not what I thought the movie would be? And many negotiation deals, or I would say 90% of the negotiation deals often happen like that. And then if you have to and there could be 100 points, I just put down 5 points. I'm like, what happens if it flops? As in, what happens if you lose the deal? What is your cliffhanger moment? Like, beyond this point, I will walk away from the deal. What's your cliffhanger moment? What's your happy scene? Sometimes we get so cynical, you become what you think. Sometimes we get so cynical, saying that this cannot happen, oh, the person is so difficult, the person is this, person is that. We have built up a cynicism or cynical cloud over our head, and we are just getting into a confirmation bias, which means the moment the customer says, I don't know, maybe, and you are immediately correlating that maybe to that word cloud in your head, say, see, I knew you would say that. That is confirmation bias often. Whereas the customer, for all you know, was saying, maybe I don't have clarity. Can you help me understand it a little better? And so instead of doing that, but because I have this preconceived notion in my head, that maybe is becoming negative in my mind. And I'm saying, okay, I'm building a wall of difficulty even before it actually is. So think about that. So what is your cliffhanger moment? What's your happy scene like? So have a happy scene, like this will work out. This is how it will work out. The customer or the situation will work out in my favor. Plot that out. What's the script? The script, often as we have seen in many movies, is absent. That should not be the case in any negotiations, right? So what is the script? The script is something of the buyer's journey. How many of you are, and if this is from a sales context, of course, what is the buyer's journey from start to finish? You will be surprised, or let me first give you the obvious. What happens in most cases is people just go flow with the direction. We're saying, I have blue, green, red, yellow to offer. What do you want? That, my friends, is not selling. That is order fulfillment. That you have something, he wants something, and you connect. Selling, however, or solution selling, however, is slightly different. So that script is highly tilted at the start or skewed at the start. What means is, right at the upfront, I mean, sometimes I have this conversation. Hey, what I have to share with you, you may like it or you may not like it. Assume you like it. What could be the next steps? You say, no, first we have to go through and all that. So the negotiation begins. Typically, when I speak with similar people like you, here are the common objections. They sometimes find that the price is too much and this is not for them. And sometimes they want more features, some of which we don't have. Is any of this your concern? And suddenly it's like, oh, he's talking about price upfront. Yeah. So for this kind of solution, typically it costs 50,000 rupees. Is that too much for you? The answer is, yeah, it's too much for you. It's also important to know who is not your customer. Very critical learning. Who is not your customer? So we often do crisis management at the end because the preemptive management has not been done at the beginning. See, you don't want to travel till the penultimate station to figure out you're on the wrong train. You're trying to reach, say, Delhi, and you don't travel till the last station before the Delhi junction to say, "Arey, I took the wrong train." So the story starts right at the beginning where you think, is this my customer at all or not? And how do you define that? Every business has a different definition. Every situation has a different definition of who is your customer. So I always try and see who is not my customer. And it's like disqualify, 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 and you have to be honest about it. And then you will be left with a smaller set of customer, but then you have to go very deep into them because the probability of closing that deal just went up a couple of notches. And therefore, if you try this approach, the probability of negotiation is slightly neutralized. Instead of being great crisis manager, if you are a good pre-planner, as much as you can't plan for everything, but as much as you can, you write that script that here is the message, here is why I will make sense to this person. Remember, it's not what you want to sell, it's what they want to buy. Be a part of their customer acquisition journey. If you can say this to your customer, that I want to be a part of your customer acquisition buying journey. Can I help you accelerate? Can I solve something? Can I be support something? If your service or product is of that nature, then the probability of a contradictory negotiation goes down. Tackling upfront objections often is a very good strategy. Like, I know price is always the concern, but in a typical organization, in your mind, you've already done your cliffhanger conversation. He says, yeah, 50,000 is, we might as well not talk. Well, then don't. It's okay. Oftentimes, when you go back and see, the word is TAM, total addressable market. How much have you covered? What people say is, I have 5 accounts, and how can I say no to 4 of them? But once you zoom out, you will see there are not 5 accounts. There were probably 500. You're talking to 5, completely different. So you play the volume game, chances of you not, it empowers you to say, okay, I don't think we are ready to do business yet, but if you think this makes sense to you, I'm happy to take the conversation forward. And so it empowers you. You don't need to be arrogant. You don't need to be rude. Like the "Ye teri naukri." You don't want to do that, but you have the power when you have volume at play. So think of the script in advance rather than in retrospect. In your mind, have the unedited version of the entire movie for the entire journey, unedited. With the customer, you modify and edit the version that makes sense to them the most. So think of this big picture. I told you at the beginning, there's a science part of it, there's the art part of it. Art bit is this, CBMs. CBMs is, for those who are familiar, it's called as the confidence building measure. What are the 2 or 3 things have you done right through the journey to build confidence? Even if it is an interview, have you built confidence building? What have you done? So what are the 3 things you can do? Build bridges when you don't need them. I often get a lot of LinkedIn requests, friends, and they suddenly say, I need a job. And I'm like, but I don't know you. Like, so what? Like, you're a leader, so you should give me a job. Like, no, but the person who, went to the career website, applied for it, and did the right thing, why should I skip you over? And would you want such a manager? Would you want such a manager who disregards process and says, okay, just because you and I said hi, I will immediately offer you a job? So build bridges when you don't need them. What I mean by that is, with your customer, with your stakeholder, be a part of their journey line. See where they are commenting, see what groups they are part of, what is their conversation. Introduce yourself formally that, hey, listen, I often ask when people reach out to me, curious to know what prompts you to connect. And most common answer I get is, I don't know. Oh, LinkedIn algorithm said so. I was like, you want to connect with a leader, but why? And I want a job only. But how can I just give you a job just like that? So spend investing time in advance before you ask something is the bridge that you need to build. And so nothing stops you from generating original content. Cut pasting something from somewhere is not original content. You have to develop as a professional where you are thinking professional that in this particular area, zone, specialty, here is my contribution, even if you have a limited understanding. So that is the first. And then the leaders that are there, you can ask for mentorship, you can ask for guidance. Am I thinking the right thing? Those are the bridges. Likewise with your customers. How many times, and if you look back at your sales career, if you already are in one, gone back to the same customer 1 month after the last deal was closed? Close the deal, wrapped and sealed, you're moved on. We never go back to the customer saying, hey, how's it going? They go through a phase called buyer's remorse. Like, oh my God, this is too expensive. Oh my God, I shouldn't have bought it. And you fear that, oh my God, who wants to listen to them all over again? Go and stand in front of them and say, hey, I'm not going away. Confidence building measure. And these are just some small examples. And what it does is it builds an authentic fabric. The bond, you develop a bond with your stakeholder that, hey, I'm authentic. I'm not a fly-by-night operator, gone here today, gone tomorrow. And so you go beyond the obvious into the oblivious. Sometimes the customer does not know, like, oh my God, what is this? So all of this is the skill-based thing. That's why I probably put it under art, that spend time knowing your customer in multiple ways. Spend time knowing your stakeholder in multiple ways. And that you could have your own confidence building measure basis the situation that you are in. But without that, landing up as a cold start, like the LinkedIn example I gave you, generally doesn't work, right? It doesn't make sense. And it's not science, but split objections into 3 very simple categories. Very simple. It's a love triangle, right? We are talking movies, so it's a love triangle. When people object to something, no, will not do, and go back to your own objections for things that people have asked you to go back. Broadly, I mean, there are multiple categories. Broadly, you can put it under these objection buckets. There's a principal level objection. I don't like you. I don't want to work with you. Then there is a statistical objection. But what is the odd that this will happen? What percentage of time this worked out? And there's a conceptual objection. Think about this, right? If in 2007, and some of you might be very young at the time, the biggest deal at the time was the number of buttons on your phone, like 100 buttons on a Palm Treo or a BlackBerry or what have you. And then this guy comes along and says, no buttons. So imagine pitching that idea. Like, we are now going to, in the age of buttons, we are going to have a phone which has no buttons. So customers often don't get the brilliance or get the genius, right? And so there's a conceptual objection, right? When customers started moving into the cloud, yeah, I need to see the server, I need to see the laptop, the everything. Where is it? Where will the storage happen? And some even said it'll rain. So what happens to the cloud will go away and all. But now we have come far from there. These are broadly the 3 objections that come across. Amongst all these 3, the reason I put principal objection as number 1, it's a battle I'll not fight. I can argue with you or present, not argue is not the right word, I can counter present data and facts saying that statistically, here are the 5 things. But if you're at a principal level against me, then this falls under that bracket. Who's not your customer? It takes copious amounts of bandwidth to convert, to change. I will turn you around. But have you covered your market? Have you found that low-hanging fruit? If the answer is no, do not spend too much time trying to principally change someone, because those are the most rigid objections. Most rigid, and they are in every scope of work and life. There will be some of you who will say, no, this doesn't work. So I can't convince you of that. Some of you say, how many times has this worked? Oh, I can give you some data. And some of you will say, I don't understand negotiation. Well, I can do a presentation and explain to you. So I'm doing exactly the same thing, what I'm sharing here on the screen. I would want you to understand at a concept level, and then probably give you some examples, statistics. And then probably, if you're okay with in principally believing, because part of success is to unlearn. At the peak of perfection, imperfection creeps in. The reason why you were successful at some point starts to become the reason for your failure. And this is a very powerful thing. Take note. The reason for which you became successful becomes the reason why you fail eventually. And so be very cautious, very careful that your conviction should not become such that it tilts over to being rigid. Rigidity has no space. And so in negotiations, in customer interactions or engagements, you will need to be flexible, agile, and move on very quickly. So this is a little bit on the science bit. The micro moments. This is my favorite part, right? People miss these, like how? Spot the micro moments of objections and read between the lines. What is the power of variety? We are in a hurry to speak longer, more content, more volume. I would like you to take a step back and say, hold on, I am the expert. Listen to me. Pause. And let there be this uncomfortable pause. I bet you there will be the customer who will start to say, but what about this? That's your cue. That is, the customer often says what is at the top of the mind recall. Like the common objection is, yeah, send me some email. Lovely. What would you like to read in an email? Huh? Like, call me in 6 months. Sure. What are the 2 things that will change in 6 months? Like, I don't know. Whatever he blurts out or she blurts out, probability of that being the real objection or the real interest is very high. So power of pause, variety, mix and match. You interrupt the pattern. They're expected. There have been instances where people said, you have come, आइए, अच्छा, bakiye, boliye, keep on talking. There are customers who talk like that. And then somewhere, you have to be flexible and manage that. So pause before you think what and process, and let there be this uncomfortable moment before you share what you have to share. It adds gravitas, it adds vazan, weightage, and that is critical in negotiations. Next is pause before your cliffhanger moment. You have negotiated, the conversation is there, you're sensing that the person is pushing you. In your mind, you're relaxed because you've already done the script. If you had done the script earlier, it's like that bell curve. You are now at the tipping point of your bell curve. Ek aur step lenge, it is on the downhill. So what do? Pause. Have a micro moment before the last point. Well, I think I should get going. I think I understand that we may have to park this aside. We will probably have to revisit this. It's probably my bad. I could have done something better. But before I move, would this make sense to you? Stop. Don't talk too much. Just one liner. And that is not your cliffhanger, just maybe a delta X before the cliffhanger moment. Even if that is a no, walk away. And that's your partner, right? Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Next, power of volume. I've often seen people go yada, 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 and calm down. I know this comes with a little bit with age also, but it's okay. You know why? Because people who are subject matter experts generally tend to go at about 110 to 120 words a minute. We as when we are excited, we go 200, 215 words a minute, and the customer is breathing. They're tapping on on the table, and you're like, you are also getting sucked into that. See, on one hand, mirroring is a technique. You have to mirror, like otherwise the customer will not relate to you. On the other hand, you have to also hold your ground. Like, hey, you might be very excited and you don't have time, but what I have to share with you will take 15 minutes. Can you give me 15 minutes? If the answer is no, then he's not your customer. But you cannot compress 15 minutes into 5 seconds and blurt something out, and then for you, from a solution selling, you become the order fulfillment agent saying, sir, I have so many things. Hey, then you're basically designing your career to get automated. Because if it is a repetitive task, today, tomorrow, day after, it will get automated. So the value add will happen when there's a delta X angle to the story that you bring in terms of how you present yourself. So lower your volume at key moments. Pricing is going on, negotiation, and like you go like, maybe we could think about it. And the guy will say, you have already, so you have to do it at the right moment. Otherwise, it looks caricaturish and like I said, it has to look authentic. It cannot be faked. Right? If you fake it, the customer will say, what do they think of themselves? Right? I mean, they are not like God's gift to humankind. And so it can backfire if not played well. But keep these micro moments in mind. Power of velocity. 80% of the time spent on upfront objections, on your first call, in your first engagement, on your first interaction. I know this happens typically when I speak with people like you, senior leaders like you, or senior customers like you. Here are the common things that I come across, and here's my response. Does that make sense to you? Do you resonate with it, or did you have something else? Empty the bucket of objections as much as you can upfront without fearing losing the customer. It's okay. It was never going to be your customer if you did not clarify, if they're not willing to talk about the roadblocks along the way to the solution. So absolutely be open and be ready that 80% of the time, upfront objections, you listen, you empty the bucket, and then say, if these 4 things are solved, do we have a go ahead? They will push you back. No. First you solve this. Hypothetically speaking, calm, power of pause. If these 4 things are solved, are we willing to take the next steps today? No, but I also have these 2. Hidden objection comes out. Okay, if these 6 things are solved today, will we move on? Okay, great. Now let's deal with it. Let's break it down into what we can solve right now, today, what is short term, what is mid term, and what I can't solve. Then we get a summary of your conversation. Oh, is that acceptable to you? Does it make sense to you? So power of velocity. And then 20% of the time on post facto objections. You've done all of this. You've done the upfront thing. And in the end, they will come up with this, some other objection which was out of syllabus. If you're really in control of the deal, you say, I guess when we traveled this journey, this was kind of out of scope. What is the impact of this objection on this conversation? Is it a showstopper? If it is not, can we park this aside? Sometimes when people ask questions, you don't need to always answer right up there, even if you are the service provider, even if you are the person who's providing something and you want something from them, to show that you are also of equal stature. You don't need to be subservient. That please buy or else I will die is not a strategy that works. You don't need to be on the other side that you don't know what you're talking about. If you don't buy, you die. That doesn't work either. But somewhere establish that parity, and chances are you will start observing them. And if you're in a position to have an in-person conversation, observe their left eye. If you focus on the left eye, you will see the amount of, you will start to read the body language a little better. There are small tips, and there is a psychology angle to that, but I'm just saying, try this exercise and see if you get little different results. I'm not saying better results or this thing, but different results. So think before you speak, be very confident, slow down, address things one at a time, and then get on to the desired negotiation level. So just to summarize, people, action 1, 2, 3, 4. It's their play, but your game. It's their play, but your game. It's not what you want to sell, it's what they want to buy. So be a part of their journey. Remember, it's not an enemy. You're not like here to win a deal. Because you win, then the implication is somebody is losing. People don't like losing. So if you collaborate, say, I'm here to participate, partner, collaborate. And you might just think it's just syntax. It's just like some fancy words. No, the whole impression in your mind will change. Your vocabulary, presentation, content will change when you say, I'm not here to win something that you don't want to give me. I'm here to partner with you so that we can get you where you want to go. That conversation is very different from buy this color, buy this shape, buy this size, buy this quantity, whatever. That is very old school way of selling. So action item number 1, fill your wallet, play the volume game. If you find yourself talking to 2 people, you'll always struggle to negotiate. If you are talking to 100 people, then you can afford to be flexible. Number 2, empty your fears. You don't stop yourself. We have this recency bias where when you think, for example, I'll give you this classic example of when people change jobs, there is this thing of 30% increment, right? Or 20% more. How much, what do you expect? Oh, the usual 30%. And I'm like, who stipulated that? Did like some HR Association of India stipulate that it has to be 30%? Why not 5%? No, that doesn't work. Then why not 60%? ऐसे थोड़ी होता है. So sometimes we come across self-created, self-limiting biases. Then that becomes real. Yeah, okay, you wanted 30, I've given you 30, be happy now. So I'm not going to change your opinion. So empty your fears, right? Don't think that just because you did it this way, that person will do it the same way, right? Separate the role from your identity. What you are presenting to the external world is the role that you are probably paid to do. It's not the person who you are. The rejection, the negotiation is happening with the role that you are executing. It's almost like you are referring to somebody else. If you manage to believe that, then the rejections won't hurt you, objections won't throw you off, because the role is responding to that. The trouble starts when we mix the two and say, this person abused me. This person, I feel bad. I lost the deal. So when you overburden yourself with fears, your power of negotiation goes down. And so action number 3, lock your objections. First, lock them out. Like because it takes time to solve them, isolate them for now. Pick out the easier ones to unlearn and the harder ones you park them aside. Just convince yourself that this is my belief system. It's not necessarily that how the world thinks. And you will have this dilemma. Should I be, it's my instinct, it's my belief, and I can't contradict that. And so park that aside, follow what the role demands, and life will become a little easier. Last is, of course, be open to possibilities. There is no written down magic bullet theory that here are the 10 things that you do, magic will happen. Magic does not happen, guys. It doesn't happen. The master probably has failed more number of times than the beginner has ever tried. Stephen Craney had said this in some comment. So it is a fact that we will fail over and over and over again. Then one fine day, you will see a different result. The trouble is sometimes we overburden ourselves thinking we are one phone call I pick up and everything will fall in place. Who has got that? Nobody. Nobody has got that. And even if they have, probability-wise, it will be like less than 1%, less than 0.5% of the total potential workforce trying to do that. So don't pressurize yourself so much that this deal has to work or else. It will not work if you think like that. And I'll cap it up with this is one of the ionisms that I have. The risk in being outstanding is that you risk standing out. You will feel very alone when you fail, when your deals won't work, when you missed your numbers, your target, you'll feel alone. And that's all right. Because then you tell yourself, it's the role, not me, the person. And then you keep moving. Because the opposite of this also is very true. When you succeed by your conviction, you will be outstanding.